Thank you, Mary. My presentation today, if it should have been extremely short, it would have been Marine Messages 3. It's about an ongoing process. I will go in detail a little bit later. Most of the stuff I'm going to present today, it's anchored in the work done for the European Environment Agency by its topic center on biodiversity and ecosystems. And it's also based on a Horizon Europe project called GES4Cs. There has been a very close collaboration between the ETCBE and the GES4Cs project over the past 3 years. So, Marine Messages 3, it's the first Marine Messages was published in 2014. Second Marine Messages was published in 2020, and Marine Messages 3 stands on the shoulder of these. Today I will tell you a little bit about the content. I will show you some preliminary results, both in relation to the status of to the state of Europe seas, and also in relation to the pressures and the causes in Europe seas. There will also be a bit on solutions and outlook, and at the end, very simple, I have some take-home messages. We have been given a structure from the EEA, and the first chapter, it deals with setting the scene for this entire Marine Messages 3 synthesis assessment report. We ask some very, very simple questions, and the purpose is basically to get the readers on board and sort of prepare them for what is going to be presented in the following chapter. But when we talk about the marine environment in Europe, there are sort of 3 key directives we need to take into account. It's of course the Marine Strategy Framework Directive, but it's also the Water Framework Directive and especially the land-sea interactions. And then the third directive, it's the Maritime Spatial Planning Directive. I always call it Marine Spatial Planning Directive. It's the Maritime Spatial Planning Directive. So part of the first chapter of Marine Messages 3, it is to link these 3 directives with focus on the human activities, the pressures, the marine ecosystems and the services, and especially what's the status out there? And when we are dealing with the Marine Strategy Framework Directive and the Water Framework Directive, we have in principle 2 classes. There are 5 in the Water Framework Directive, but basically we have problem areas and non-problem areas. The purpose of Marine Messages 3 has not been to check what member states are reporting. We are not making a guess assessment. We are identifying problem areas and non-problem areas. Marine Messages 3, it's data and tool-based. A year ago, the conclusions, the EU Commission concluded that none of the existing data flows in Europe works as intended. None of them. You can look at the work by the regional seas conventions. You can look at EMODNet. You can look at WISE Marine. You can look at all the data at ICES. None of these single data sources seen alone are good enough for doing a European-wide synthesis assessment. So we have had a vision. We have had a lot of planning. We have had funding for 4 years, and that has enabled us to gather the data from all these sources and spend a considerable amount of time of getting duplicates sorted out. We have applied a number of so-called multimetric indicator-based assessment tools, doing thematic integrated assessment in relation to biodiversity, ecosystem health, contaminant eutrophication, and marine litter. And we have also done based on a former EEA report, we have done a calculation of human impact index, earlier known as cumulative effect assessment or cumulative impact assessment. And we have also got some results on non-indigenous species using the simple tool on board. That's an approach similar to the Halpernit approach. Everything I'm showing today is provisional and in principle confidential, but I don't care. I will explain later. This is a European-wide indicator-based assessment of biodiversity. It's based on the BEAT tool. It was originally developed by HELCOM back in 2010 for the whole as one assessment. It's actually widely used. HELCOM has used it 3 times. A version of it was developed under the name NEED in the DEVOTE project, and the EEA has used the BEAT tool once before. Data comes from the regional seas conventions, from ICES, EMONET, WISE Marine. OSPAR and HELCOM has done a fantastic job of this. But the most important thing here, it uses monitoring data and agreed target values. We haven't developed or faked our own target value. Everything is what has been agreed by member state or by the Commission or by Regional Seas Convention. That's how it looks. Biodiversity in Europe is not in a good place. It's impaired almost all over. This green down here, it's relating to data quality. But if we were about to assess biodiversity as descriptor number 1, this is the way it would look. This is an assessment of ecosystem health using a lot of data. It was originally intended to be a guess assessment across all the 10 MSFD descriptors. It has been applied on a European scale before. It uses the same old data and only agreed target value. This is what it looks like when you assess ecosystem health on a European scale. This is a false positive. There are many indicators and data sets that are lacking. Good. This is the only fish slide I'm showing today. We have taken the official EU-wide data set for the descriptor on commercially exploited fish stocks and the BMSY data available for the Black Sea, the Mediterranean, from the ICES region. We have normalized and harmonized the assessment so it fits with all the MSFD and WFD assessment methods. And I really like this figure here because it's an indirect evaluation of the common fisheries policy. It went from a good or status into something really, really bad. The 4 lines are the 4 agreed phases of the common fisheries policies, and there's been a huge improvement over the past year. So the CFP is often being criticized. Part of the criticism is correct, but in general, the CFP is a huge success. When we assess or map overfished areas using the same assessment principles as been done for priority substances, contaminants under the Water Framework Directive and the Marine Strategy Framework Directive, we get a map like this. So in principle, there are at least 1 overfished stock in all these areas. So, yeah. We have mapped causes. We have done a so-called human impact index for all of Europe's, including all the key MSFD pressures and climate change. It's based on a multiple pressure report. It's the methodology developed by NCES and Ben Halpern. It's in fact almost a global standard. It runs on data sets on pressures, ecosystem components, and sensitivity scores. And this is how the updated human impact index looks for Europe when climate change is included. We also have a version where climate change is not included, and it has a much larger spatial coverage, including larger parts of the Northeast Atlantic Ocean. When we use a multimetric indicator-based assessment tool for contaminants, the data available, agreed target value, we get a map like this, and it indicates that there are problem areas almost all over. If we look at marine litter, the indicators available use those and the data sets available and agreed target value. We get a map like this indicating that marine litter is in particular a coastal issue. This is my favorite. I have a background in eutrophication. This is, in my opinion, the first ever European-wide mapping of eutrophication problem areas and non-problem areas. We have spent more than 3 years on collecting these data. It's the first time the whole of Europe is covered. And we see it's the usual suspects, the Baltic Sea, parts of the North Sea, parts of the Mediterranean. What we see in the Black Sea, there's something wrong, lack of data. The entire Baltic Sea is one big problem area. We have also ranked all the pressures on a European scale. This is how it looks. There's a significant change from earlier rankings of pressures in Europe. It doesn't come as a surprise, as contaminants and fishing are key pressures, but climate change has for the first time ever made it into the top 3. We have done a simple scenario analysis where all the pressures are kept as they are, but we have used the downscale Copernicus SP scenarios for 2050 and rerun the model. It's so simple, but this is how it looks, and if the climate change continue as expected in 2050, climate change will be the top pressure in Europe's seas. When we started the developing Marine Messages Tree, we got an instruction anchored in Marine Messages 2. They don't want a gloomy picture. They want a focus on solutions. So we have made a major review on solutions and discussed what is going on out there, but it's really complicated because the recovery, there's not a linear recovery. The degradation curve is not, or the recovery curve is not identical to the degradation curve. We have threshold, we have shifting baselines, and when these are combined, we can see that the management action required is a red arrow. It moves to the right, and meaning that much more pressure reduction is required. We have included a number of best examples of best practices on solutions. Solutions exist, and they are well documented, and still the biodiversity in Europe is impaired. So we have come up with these. I cannot go into details, but there are examples on case studies on contaminants, on eutrophication, commercially exploited fish stocks, marine protected areas. And in the end, when all these are combined, in Marine Messages 3, we come up with a key recommendation, and that is that zoning is required. We have also identified implementation gaps, the lack of policy coherence, and we in particular identified a special wicked form of policy incoherence. But some of the interesting things that none of the key directives are fully implemented. There are so many implementation gaps. We find a lot of policy incoherence between the different directives and policies, and when it comes to this sort of wicked incoherence, we put a lot of focus on harmful subsidies. EU support harmful fishing activities. EU supports harmful agricultural practices. We have been able to combine all the directives, the pressures, and the status with the zoning principles. I will not spend much time on this figure, but trust me, this is a figure we are going to see a lot in the coming years. There are 3 case studies included, a Danish, a Swedish, and a global case study. To wrap them all up, classical pressures will likely decrease. The new pressures, such like non-indigenous species marine litter, they will increase. They are not yet well managed, and we will have climate change on top of everything. One of the studies claims that climate change will increase and equal all other pressures in 2020. And the recent global study by Benjamin Halpern and his team is that we can expect at least a doubling of pressures in 2050. Does Marine Messages 3 deliver? Yes, for the policy contents. Well, yes, for the state, human impacts, climate changes. Yes, yes, yes. The solution parts, it's so good. Yeah, I can say that without blushing. It has been in review, and we have received a review from 3 persons. So not only does it set a baseline for the Ocean Pact and the upcoming Ocean Act, it also sets a baseline on how to do solution-oriented and data and tool-based marine assessment on a European scale. Will it be published? 50-50, but that's another story. Take-home messages. Oh, Mary's gonna kill me. EU seas are largely impaired. The root causes, as we all know, are well documented, and we know what the solutions are. We have the tools there. They are documented, harmonized, coordinated, and widely used. None of the EU directives works as intended. We have so many implementation gaps and a lot of policy incoherence. Climate change, it will put much extra pressure on this. Don't ask me in plain language where we will be. Unfortunately, we have not reached a turnaround point, and that means that biodiversity will decline further. The data sets we have used, they are second to none, and we expect 7 to 8 scientific papers coming out of this. And the report, it will enter IO consultation in January, and hopefully in some form it will be published in July or August next year. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Jesper. It was worth it.
No, thanks.
That was great. It was great. One question for Jesper.
Dave.
Okay, Dave. Okay, Dave. Dave?
Yeah, I was waiting for the microphone.
Microphone for Dave?
I won't bother.
No, okay.
Jesper, that was almost all brilliant.
But
I think the problem with these global this way of handling everything as if it's global and the rules are sort of consistent across your area. Ben Halpern made this mistake, and what everyone does when they look at these pictures is look at the place they know about, the place they live. And I looked at the Baltic, and you said it was intermediate health, and yet everybody I talk to about the Baltic says the place is absolutely stuffed. Most of the fish populations are at zero advice level. Eutrophication is maintained because it sticks around. It's got very long persistence. Totally anoxic areas have increased considerably, though the total hypoxic areas haven't. And it feels really difficult to work out how that could possibly be at the middle of the health range. And I did it with Ben's stuff as well for Ireland. So I wonder if you have any comment.
Yeah, okay. The Baltic is my backyard. I basically did whole as one together with Samuli and Maria. It's not a question whether it's high or good or it's moderate, poor or bad. The job here is to say, is it a problem area or a non-problem area? And when we do it like this, it's absolutely correct what we are doing. And to me, it doesn't matter if it's bad or poor or moderate. Action is needed to lift it to good. And the old classic Halpern approach, it will be retired in a couple of months. There are so many improvements on the way. So this will be probably the last time I'm doing a Halpern et al. Approach. I used to love it, but it's close to being outdated.
Thank you very much, Jesper. Thank you. And so